Hello YouTube, vintage black and white photographers. I'm doing a few different things just to make things interesting. What I've actually got here is a roll of Ilford Delta 100 film shot in one of my Praktikas. I went to a cruise night last night, took some pictures of some vintage cars, and had kind of a weird experience. I found people with going around smartphones, taking pictures. People would stand out of the way, but I'm going around with a 70s camera, and people are kind of looking at me, what is with this guy? And a friend of mine came over to me and he said, nice 70s Praktika. And I said, well, I'm from the 70s, right? He goes, yes you are. And he said, so are most of these cars. We had a good laugh about it. But so I took some pictures and then some pictures at a local park. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit how I work photography, and this is kind of a major change in my chemistry. There's some water, I'm gonna get ready, so I don't go too crazy on this. I'll just show you what I'm using these days. Rodinal, black and white developer, which is a one-shot developer, and it's the same formula as Rodinal, made by Blazes Chemicals. Very long-lasting. Like this bottle is about 2 years old. I've had bottles that were 15 years old and was still good. That stuff. For stop bath, you can of course use household vinegar or even just water. The problem I was running into was finding an alternative to Fixer. For years I used Ilford Rapid Fixer. Great stuff. Lasts a fairly long time, a little bit smelly. And what I found was there was only one store in town carrying it, and then they weren't carrying it, so I had to order it online right from Ilford and pay a hefty premium as a dangerous good to get it shipped. So there's got to be a better way, and there's no alternative. Like for instance, for developer, you can use Tetenal and coffee and vitamin C tablets. And different versions of that. I've actually done it. It works really well. But for pictures that I really want to use on my website, or if somebody asks me to do them for their website, I want consistency. So I had to find an alternative, and I read about this stuff, Tetenal Superfix tabs. That's what it looks like, a big pill. And you dissolve these in warm water, and you can pour them right down the drain because they're biodegradable, and they have a very long shelf life. So what I did here, this one, is I put 2 tablets in here, which is the right amount for 300 milliliters. My Patterson tank, for 135 millimeter roll, it's 300 milliliters, so match that up. So yes, it's dissolved, and it's supposed to be around 70 degrees, around 74. I think that's going to be alright for Fixer. So you got to prepare that ahead of time. Let's get into the developing. It's glazing all been sitting a few months, so give it a gentle shake. Shake and not stir, Mr. Bond. Okay, I know it looks a little gross, but I'm going to put my glasses on so I get the amount exact. I figured it out. You can go online and fill all this stuff out. I got a printout here somewhere. For 25 to 1 in 300 milliliters, it's about 10 milliliters. Or 11. Just a hair more. You know what? You don't have to be perfect on this stuff. It is the most forgiving developer. I think the best developer of all time was Edwall FG7, to be honest. That was great stuff. So what we do now is we get it up to 300 milliliters. There's 150. I need the scissors right now. And here. Then another 150. Go. Like that. can use the thermometer to stir. We may even be cross-contaminating here, but it'll forgive me, the chemistry. This has kind of an amber color. If it goes super brown, it's not good anymore. Oh, we're in the mid-70s, I guess. So anyway, what I'm going to do is, it's 9 minutes. So I'm just going to use a stopwatch on my old beater phone here. Why am I using this phone? Because my new one broke and I had to go back while it was sent for warranty. I am using my 12-year-old phone. So, get this. I'll show you how I start it off. So we start the timer, pour it in the developer. That. Spin it around for about 10 seconds. Get the bubbles out. So every 30 seconds for 9 minutes, I'm going to agitate for 10 seconds. That seems to be the best for Ilford Delta 100. And you can look up, there's different sites that will tell you, including Ilford's site, which is what I rely on. And that's sort of their combination. Agitate every 30 seconds for 9 minutes at 70 degrees. So I'm not going to hold you up for 9 minutes. I'm going to start a new video and then put them together. Okay, I'm back. Here's what I did. I let it sit for the 9 minutes, did the agitation every 30 seconds, went over and rinsed it just with tap water as a stock bath. Now I'm going to try the new fixer. So I'm going to reset my little stopwatch. Here's the fixer, mixed up from 2 Tetenal Super Fix tabs. Doesn't even smell like anything. It's supposed to be environmentally compatible chemicals. So let's put it in there. We'll hit start. In goes the fix, the Super Fix. Like that. We'll agitate it. Now it says 4 to 6 minutes for this film. So I'm just going to bore you out of your mind for 4 minutes. I'm a little worried. It was precarious when I was loading the film onto the reel. We have this small fruit cellar. It's under the front porch, like a lot of them. And it's the darkest room. If you turn out all the lights, come down the stairs and go into there, it won't ruin your film. It's really good that way. So I go in there and I open the canister, put everything where I can find it in the dark, some scissors, a bottle opener to get the canister open. So I have to turn off the lights, get the canister open, pull out the reel, and there's 2 little tabs you gotta feed the film into. That's a minute here. We'll give it 10 seconds of agitation. It doesn't say anything about agitation in the Tetenal instructions, but that's what used to work with Ilford, which I used for 40, 50, a long time. And I'm sitting there going, ch, 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 ch. And it's not quite catching. There's 2 little cogs, and the roll film fell to the floor in the dark. And so I had to kind of bend over and find it, and I did find it fairly quickly. Luckily, I don't think it got too dirty or anything. This happened before. And I'll tell you a story from when I took photography in high school. It was an old school, and we had the most miserable, windowless, poorly ventilated room in the school. It used to be a storeroom. That was the dark room for the photography course. And we'd have lab time in the lab, depending on which class you were in, but it was lab time that day for me, which meant everybody went down there that was developing film. The lights went out, people loaded their film, and then when everybody's like, okay, I'm loaded, then the lights went back on. So I'm sitting there one day, and I had just done a project, and I'd gone over to a wildlife area and got some great shots along the river and some rocky crags and that kind of thing. And I'm looking forward to it. And I also want to get my photos in time, you know, so I could get a good mark. And so we go downstairs, and there's only 6 or 7 allowed at a time because this is a small room. So it's like lights are out, load film. No teacher supervising, of course. And I'm sitting there and I loading onto the reel, and right beside me, the guy beside me, you just see a spark and a flame, and he lights a cigarette. And I'm sitting there and I see my film hanging out. And I'm like, I don't believe this. And he goes, oh, sorry guys, I thought you were done. Not that the air quality was great to begin with in that room, but we actually kind of fell in on this guy and roughed him up a little bit. You know, this was like a different time, okay? High schools were like survival of the fittest or something, or rule of the jungle back in the 70s. Ugh. This late 70s, early 80s. I was in high school for part of the 70s and part of the 80s. So there's 4 minutes. I'm going to go on just another little while longer to make sure it fixes, because it's hard to refix film. And it's of course removing the leftover undeveloped halide crystals. It was weird. We just fell in on this guy and kind of, there was a tossing around in the dark and punches were flying, and next thing the lights come on. And it's another teacher who heard it down the hall. The lights come on, everybody's got their film out and it's ruined, of course. And this guy's sitting on the ground with a cigarette in his hand. And long and short of it is, I had to retake my film, and so did everybody else. And I did eventually get a good mark, and that guy wasn't allowed back in the dark room again unless he had teacher supervision. Well, there's 5 minutes, so I'm going to stop this and I'll meet you over at the sink. Okay, I'm back. So I'm just starting up some water here, and we got to rinse this fixer. So there goes the super fix down the sink. Supposed to be able to do that because it's environmentally favorable chemicals. So we get the water about like lukewarm so it doesn't burn your hand, and we just start rinsing here. It used to be in the old days you had to rinse and rinse and rinse your fixer out. Okay? It's not really like that anymore. This stuff is very easy to rinse out. So we'll take the empty reel out. Give this a good splurshing here. I'll get to the dirty dishes after lunch. Yeah. So, I just had about a minute of vigorous rinsing. I know that's contrary to probably what you were taught, but now what we do is, we used to use Photoflix 2000. Now we're using whatever, 1 drop of whatever brand of dish soap you have, 2024. Good. Splurshing out. And off the reel. And there are pictures there. And I am going to go and hang this up and scan them in later. Okay, so I just hung the roll of negatives up over the window and to have them dry here. And I'll show you my squeegee technique. 2 fingers. I used to have all the equipment, but after getting into photography and out of photography a few times, I do this bare minimum now. I mean, you know what? I don't think you need squeegees. Just between your fingers like that. There's some good shots there, I can see them. trees, rocks, rivers, a VW bus. About 3 runs with the human squeegee. And we'll let this dry for 3 or 4 hours. And then scan it in and see what they look like. Thanks for watching and listening. Well, here we are. We're in a different place. We're up in the electronics room with the strip of negatives that have dried. And you can see. So here's what I'm going to do. This is an Epson Perfection V370 photo scanner. It's about 6 years old now. It was really good in its day, and they still make them very similar. It takes 6 35mm negatives at a time. So what we'll do is we're going to scan 6. I call this hybrid photography. That's where you start with film photography and then you move over into digital. I used to do it the hard way, not the hard way, the original way, with a enlarger, paper, trays, you know. This place we're living now it's really conducive to that. And it is a lot to do. If you're only doing a roll like every few weeks or months, it's a bit of a hassle. Keep the chemicals fresh. What we'll do is we'll put this here, turn on the scanner. I just use one of these old-fashioned blow brushes. I used to use the aerosol can. It's got to synchronize. You can get a really good resolution with one of these. This was in the $300 range, and I used it to scan a lot of my old slides from the 70s. So here we are, and what you do is you just ask it to do a preview. So it does a quick look at those negatives. Then you can decide how you want them to scan and what resolution. And I'm just using the software that came with it. Not going to do any editing of images or anything at this point. I've been doing this for about, I don't know, 9 or 10 years. I had an older version of this one. Cannot find a document. Oh, really? I got it. Oh. I've got it in slide mode. I got it upside down. See, it's smarter than I am. We do a preview again. I've actually scanned 120 on this by putting them on the glass. And it does, it's a bit of a hassle to do it that way. You've got to have this whiteboard off when you do it. Oh, okay. Now we want in thumbnail mode. It's thinking. So I usually scan around 2400 DPI. That seems to be about right. It gives you good resolution no matter how large a monitor you have. Give us the thumbnails. Okay, so it reverses them. So that's a sky shot, tree shot, sun going down on the side of a building, sun going down on a lake. Some swans, these were very aggressive swans. So all I'm doing is the unsharp mask. I'm not doing grain reduction, any color restoration, anything like that. So it's basically the way they're shot. So we got to scan them and put them in a folder. So let's pick a folder here. Under negative scans, make new folder, and we'll just call it 0625 2024. that. Hit OK. We start at 001. And we can just call them, my last ones are from Concart, and we'll just call them outside. And once you get the initial setup on this kind of software, it's a piece of cake. And then we hit OK. So now it's going to kind of slow down because it has to go at 2400 dpi. But we can talk about a couple things until we get some pictures. This is the camera I used for these shots. Praktica MTL5, so it's a little bit later in the LTL MTL series, around 1980. I've had several of these. I had quite a few of the L's and LTL3s. And, you know, I find them, I fix them, I shoot with them, and I sell them to photographers who are starting out. And there's quite a few. Almost exclusively the people that would buy one of these are in their 20s and in an arts program at a university or college, because they're still doing film photography, and they should, because you learn what a true shutter speed is, what an ASA is, the f-stops, everything, because it all relates. Yeah, I think we're going to have a picture here in a second we can look at. So we'll just go to the folder. Photos, negative scans, right there. Ah, there's one. So here's a shot. This was taken actually not far from here, about 7 o'clock at night a month or so ago. It was still very cool. This hasn't been corrected for contrast or brightness or anything like that. It's just a simple scan in. So this is what it would look like if you printed it using a regular enlarger. I just don't go that way, and I've actually got a photo printer in the other room, and you know, if you buy even the cheap photo paper, the results are very close to analog. It's actually a good printing system. The part I enjoy about 35mm or 120 photography, it's, sorry I got my back to you, is the cameras and the film and the tanking of it, you know. And then this is actually more enjoyable. I used to have to do these afternoon sessions. It was like for hours, exposing, printing, developing, fixing, adjusting, exposing, printing, to get some nice results. And I've got some great prints going back decades. But I'm just going to show you something else. Hopefully you can see the screen okay. I think we might actually have another picture in there. Yes, we do. So there's another one. I was just walking along and I saw this sad old tree. And if you go in at it, that's really excellent resolution, considering what a small part of the shot that is. Delta 100 film is nice to work with. I was just going to show you some photos in my archive that this actually... oh, here. These aren't of people, so they're of cars. And these are pictures taken 1982. My dad and I bought this car together and restored it together. 48 Ford Deluxe convertible. And it was taken on Fuji slide film. And where this car is sitting now is houses and supermarkets. It's almost historical. But I just got sick of hauling out the slide projector. And I scanned in all my pictures of all the different cars, you know. And, well, let's find another one. Okay. These are actually even a bit older. Just a winter day. That license plate's long gone, so I don't have to mask it. 69 Chrysler Newport. That was on slide film, Fuji slide film. If you notice the nice blues, 383 engine. And see, now I can bring them up, I can print them out. Before I had to bring out the slide projector and hope it worked. So let's actually look at a couple of these other pictures, and we can let you go on to something else. Where the heck are they? We gotta go back here. There's so many drives, you know. There they are. There's that one. The tree. Oh, I like this. This is just a building. That was the sun going down behind some clouds. And I took the camera, I set it at 1/500th of a second, f/16 shot. Didn't even meter it. Didn't want to look through the viewfinder, it was too hard. And here's one, sun going down. These are nice black and white. Like, this is actually kind of a neat way to do it. Anyway, I'm going to leave you go with that bit of photography. Thanks for watching and listening.